There we go. So what's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Unger to the Max here, coming at you with another episode of the Sports Room. And we are previewing a big-time game in Week 5 as my Cleveland Browns, riding a 3-game winning streak, sitting at 3-1, host the Indianapolis Colts, who also sit at 3-1, who are also riding a 3-game winning streak. So I would say it's the marquee game of the weekend, I should say. So to help me preview this game, I need to find an Indianapolis Colts YouTuber. Well, mission accomplished, because we have a Colts YouTuber. Welcome to the show. Care to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Cody, co-host of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. It's been a lot of fun covering the Colts. Started, I guess, last year when the Colts won in that divisional round, or in the wild card round, rather, against the Houston Texans. And ever since then, I've just been podcasting about the Colts, been talking about the Colts, like similar to how you do it, man. Like just talking about the team that we love and, consistently staying a diehard fan, but also wanting to bring a little bit of our thoughts and my, my takes on certain things. And it's been really awesome. It's been a really cool opportunity to be able to do that for a year and a half. And it's just so much fun every time we come on and post stuff and talk about Colts stuff. So I definitely love the opportunity, man. It's definitely a blessing for sure.
Yeah. I was more than willing to come on your show. So I was a little bit taken aback when you said that you wanted to come on my show. I'm like, oh okay. Which I'm fine with. I love hosting people on the show, so I'm cool with that. But let's get into this game. So you guys are obviously coming off of beating the Chicago Bears 19-11, mm-hmm. and we are coming off of beating America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, 49-38. Both of us were on the road, so you're continuing your road trip, I guess, and, we're coming home for a quick one-game homestand because we go out on the road to face Pittsburgh and Cincinnati in the next 2 weeks. But what are your thoughts on how the Colts did last week? Did you like what you saw? Were there any parts of the game that made you nervous? Like, did you see anything that you're like, oh, I didn't like that? Like, that could be a problem moving forward. Like, what were your overall thoughts on the Colts' performance?
Yeah, and I think the 19-11 score, it kind of makes the game look closer than it was. I mean, this game was really never in question. The Colts pretty much dominated from start to finish, especially on the defensive side. So I guess I'll start there with some things that I did like. This defensive performance for 3 straight weeks now, I mean, it's been outstanding. I mean, this is the best I've ever seen the Colts defense play. Like in my life.
You're number 1 in the league.
Yeah, and I've never seen them come anywhere close to that. So was definitely surprised, but also pleasantly surprised at just the level the Colts defense has taken it to. We knew the addition of DeForest Buckner this offseason was going to make an impact of some sort, but to this degree, I did not expect that. I'll be honest. I expected, maybe, top 15, top 10, somewhere around there, but definitely not number 1. I know it's still early, only a quarter way through the season.
Right.
But I've loved the defensive performance I've seen, especially in the secondary. We knew the defensive line was going to be improved, but this secondary has played lights out. And that's, Xavier Rhodes, who they brought in the offseason, TJ Carey as well, and drafting Julian Blackmon. All those guys have made an impact so far.
Right.
And it's been really, really awesome to see all these guys making an impact, because that was really a weakness of this team last year in that secondary. And so I've been encouraged from that standpoint. I guess what I don't like was just the offense, especially last week, kind of looked stagnant, looked a little bit vanilla, looked like they were almost trying not to lose as opposed to trying to win. And I'm glad that they did win, but I definitely want to see a lot more creativity from this offense, and especially in the running game. That has just been something that the Colts have really surprisingly struggled in this year, to run the football. That was their identity last year. This year, early on, I mean, they're 15th in the league. I mean, that's a far cry from where they were last year within the top 10. So really looking forward to can the Colts, I know Cleveland has a pretty good run defense as well, as the Colts do. So can the Colts establish some sort of running game? That's going to be my big thing for this game, because it's going to be tough against Myles Garrett. All your defensive guys are just they're very good, especially against the run. So I'm really much looking forward to it. And the Colts have to get back and break out of this kind of I don't know the exact word I would say, but they haven't looked great on offense the last couple of weeks. So definitely want to see them, get back to being respectable, and not, because the Colts defense is dominated. But even last week, the Colts should have scored a lot more points than they did. Like, that game should have not even been remotely close. It should have been double digits at least. And so those are some things I guess I didn't like about it. But, overall, I'm very pleased with the 3-1 start so far, especially kind of after a shocker going down in Jacksonville to a Jaguars team that, so far hasn't looked great, and really kind of laying an egg there. So I've been happy with the way they've responded the last 3 weeks, though.
Okay. So for us, I'm not surprised that we laid a clunker in week 1 against Baltimore. I mean, we just brought in Kevin Stefanski. There was no preseason. We didn't really have proper, training, I guess. I can't really think of a better word, but you kind of get what I mean.
Yeah.
So I thought the game would at least be competitive, though. I didn't expect us to get absolutely smashed 38-6. I don't even know if we got off the plane when we landed in Baltimore. I've said that multiple times on this channel. And then, we've rattled off a 3-game winning streak. We've put up 30-plus points in 3 straight games. But think about who we've played. Cincinnati, Washington football team, so a team that doesn't even have an official name, and the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, Cincinnati is going to be the doormat of the AFC North again, and the NFC East only has 3 wins combined as a division. So I can't really put too much stock into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys are a true step up in weight class for the Browns because, Dallas was a good test, I would say, but, they don't have a defense like you guys do with a guy like the guy that stands out for me is Darius Leonard right away, which it's questionable whether or not he's going to play. So, you better hope he does play because that will make a huge difference, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Yeah, he's the best defensive player out. Definitely. So his loss would be huge for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
So who do you think? If let's say Darius Leonard is out, who do you think needs to step up for the Colts defensively to give them a chance in this game? Not to say they don't have a chance, but.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, they have 3 linebackers who, this week haven't, in certain days haven't practiced. They're top 3 linebackers. So, I mean, you mentioned Leonard. Bobby Okereke had surgery. He was out there practicing, but he has his giant club on his hand. So hopefully he can play and kind of fill that void. Because Leonard went out, halfway through that game. And the Colts defense still looked pretty good with Okereke in there. He's kind of in that mold too. He's a very athletic linebacker. He's very good at coverage. So I think I would rely on him and Anthony Walker a lot. And maybe, Zaire Franklin, I know, has had a pretty good camp from all accounts. He's a 7th-round pick from a couple years ago. He's looked pretty solid in spurts. But the Colts really just use, I think they're going to use a lot more of their defensive backs because all of them are healthy right now. I think they're going to use a lot more like that. Tavon Wilson's a safety they brought in. He's a kind of a veteran. He can probably play some linebacker in a pinch for you too. So overall, if Leonard can't go, then I'd probably look at Okereke and Walker as your top 2. Maybe Zaire Franklin sprinkle in a little bit. And then, use some of your defensive backs who can kind of play hybrid roles in that way. So that's kind of how I look. If you have to replace Darius Leonard, it's not an easy task. The level of play will drop off. But, I think the Colts fortunately have a lot of depth, and they can, withstand a significant loss like that for a game or two.
Right.
The more concerning thing for me is Anthony Costanzo. I mean, I'm really concerned the left tackle.
On your offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay.
He injured his ribs. He hasn't practiced at all this week. I'm concerned because the depth isn't as strong as it is with the linebacker position. I mean, gosh, I
Okay.
don't even know who would be your left tackle, Chaz Green or LaRaven Clark, who I don't trust either of those guys um, really as the backup left tackle to fill in case of an injury happens. I mean, all the Colts 5 starters have played every game this year. So that would be a huge loss, especially against Myles Garrett and this defensive line. I mean, that is the one I'm more concerned about. Obviously, Leonard's a big loss if he does not play, but Anthony Costanzo's a bigger loss, in my opinion, just because of the
Sure.
lack of depth that you have, or you don't have, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. So, you kind of touched on like the play in the trenches, which I think that I don't know about you, but I think 100% that's where this game is going to be won because you guys have a great offensive line anchored by Quentin Nelson, which I thought that was a fantastic draft pick by you guys. When was that? That was the same year Baker was drafted, right?
Yeah, 2018. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He was number 6. Yeah, right after Denzel Ward and Baker Mayfield. One of them has worked out better than the other so far. But for you, like I said, this game's gonna be won and lost in the trenches because the Colts have a good offensive line led by Quentin Nelson, as I just said. And we have a strong defensive line with Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson. But on the other side, I like our offensive line, but your defensive line has been creating havoc, led by DeForest Buckner. So I would say with that trade in the offseason, you guys won that trade with San Francisco by a mile.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we said. It's like, would you rather have 13th overall, which would probably be, I know with the 49ers, for example, they basically drafted DeForest Buckner's replacement there at 13. So it's like either you get Javon Kinlaw at 13 or you trade for an all-pro and DeForest Buckner. Yeah, you pay him more, but he's a proven commodity in this league. And I thought that was a genius move. You only surrender one draft pick, and you get a player of that caliber. I thought it was a smart move by Chris Ballard, and I'm really we're reaping the benefits right now. I believe he's one of the highest defensive, maybe one of the highest defenders overall graded by Pro Football Focus right now. I mean, he doesn't have eye-popping stats when it comes to sacks, but the pressures that he puts on and he takes on a lot of double teams, the way he allows other defenders to get freed up, I mean, he's just making such a major impact. It's something that I haven't seen, and especially didn't see last year. That was the biggest weakness on this defense, I would say, was that 3 technique. And the Colts have talked about it, how, the 3 technique drives this defense. And if you can't get pressure from the interior, you're going to struggle. Well, so far the Colts have gotten a lot of pressure from inside, and it's really made a big difference. So I'm excited to continue to see how he helps this defensive line. In a couple of weeks, the Colts are going to be getting back Kamoko Toure, who hasn't even played this year. He got injured last year in that Kansas City game, actually around this time, which is crazy. So it'll be about a little over a full year when he returns. But he was the best pass rusher from the outside from the Colts last year. So I'm excited to see this defensive line. They're not even fully healthy yet. So I'm really pumped to see what happens when Toure returns and how that can impact just everything on this defensive line.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when you guys had defensive linemen like Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis. Oh, that was so much fun to just watch them absolutely destroy Tom Brady. Colts Patriots back in the day was one of the best games to watch. I'm like, oh, Colts Patriots is on? Where's my popcorn?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch a lot of those because I was a little bit too young at that point. But my first game was the 2006 AFC Championship game. So that was a good note to start on. And
I would say so.
And since then, yeah, I've always been a Brady and Patriots hater. Still now, like, I don't root for the Patriots. I want them to lose every game.
Same.
And so far, it's been a little bit better season than normal. So Patriots have a little bit of bad luck so far.
Yeah. By the way, I meant to ask you, how did you become a Colts fan anyway?
Yeah, so I live in Indiana,
Gotcha.
so it's surrounded by Colts fans. It's funny because, like, nobody in my family was really, like, into sports before. And it just started with that AFC Championship game. My family was watching it. I mean, because the Colts were in it, and I watched it. The Colts went to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they picked off Tom Brady. And then I watched the Super Bowl with my grandparents. I remember that.
Against the Bears.
Yeah, against the Bears, and the Colts won, and I just started following them. And I kind of followed them sporadically for a few years. And then in 2009, it was the first time I watched every single game for the Colts. And that was another Super Bowl run for them. Unfortunately, ended in heartbreak and pick six and all that terrible stuff. I don't want to bring back up. Yeah. But since then, I've followed the team. I've enjoyed following them. Peyton Manning obviously was a big reason why I became a Colts fan. I looked up to Peyton Manning as a kid for sure. But yeah, overall, it was, I think, just how good that team was and how dominant that team was for so many years. It was so exciting and so entertaining for me to watch them every single week, because you never knew with Peyton Manning, you could be down. I mean, I saw multiple games where the Colts were down by double digits. Peyton Manning leads a comeback. You see it a ton. He's just one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, yeah, I guess it was from that AFC Championship game, watching Peyton Manning, I just continued to do it, even after he retired, which was a really tough day. Or after he, I guess, was released and then went to the Broncos. That was a really tough day. And then watching Andrew Luck come in and do really well, and just everything that went on there, it's crazy to even think about that now. It feels like it was a lifetime ago when all that happened.
So I've been a Browns fan for my whole life just because I live here in Cleveland, and unlike you, the Browns don't know what a Super Bowl is. They just don't. Like, I know we're in an era or a time of social distancing, whatever you want to call it. The Browns have been social distancing from the Super Bowl since its inception. I mean, it's just the hard truth.
Yeah.
There have been times where I'm like, why am I still a Browns fan? Why? Why? Like, there have been times where I'm just like, oh, there's a closet. I'm going to, roll up in a ball and just cry myself to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why do I continue to put up with this? Why?
Well, you guys got us a few years ago with that Trent Richardson trade. That was genius.
Yeah, no, you guys won that because we ended up turning that pick into Johnny Manziel.
So it was a lose-lose situation for everybody.
Yes, that was one of the worst trades I've ever seen.
I know. Trent Richardson was one of the worst running backs I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, and I believe he won the Heisman at Alabama.
Yeah, and he just all of a sudden became blind or something in the NFL. I don't know. He couldn't find a hole to save his life. It was wild.
No. But we're both riding 3-game winning streaks. I would say your 3-game winning streak is a little bit more legit than ours is. That's not to discredit what the Browns are doing, but you guys have faced opponents like the Bears. I'm trying to remember who else you've beaten.
Yeah, we faced – so the competition hasn't been great, I would say. I mean, obviously Jacksonville, Minnesota, but the thing is – and also the Jets, so I don't really count that one much.
Yeah, don't count that one. The Jets are a disaster.
But, everybody's destroying the Jets. But yeah. I kind of look at it as like and I think I agree with you because the games the Browns have won, especially like last week, they've been a little bit closer. They've been a lot – and the Colts have just blown out teams.
Right.
They've blown out the teams they need to blow out. And that's big for me because that kind of proves, okay, you're actually a good team if you're beating teams by multiple, 20, 30 points like you should. And so I definitely am impressed by that for sure.
Right. So you're right. Like, you guys have had maybe a little bit of stiffer competition than us, except for the Jets, because I bet even a high school team could beat the Jets right now.
Probably.
Yeah. But, Minnesota's pretty good. They're not, they're not world beaters. They're not, the top of the NFC, but they're decent. Mm-hmm. And Chicago's got a good defense, and their offense is pretty sporadic. So that was a pretty good test for you. Whereas, like I said, Cincinnati, they're, they have something with Joe Burrow, but they're not going anywhere this season. And Washington and Dallas are part of the worst division in football.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm impressed with about the Browns is not who they've beaten, but how they've won these games by, staying with the same formula of limit Baker Mayfield to roughly 30 to 35 passes a game and just run the heck out of the ball with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and then Chubb goes out last week. And who comes in? Some guy, Dearness Johnson. Never heard of him before. So, and we use the run game to set up the play action pass to Odell, to Jarvis. Use that run game to set up the quick passes to Austin Hooper, Bryant. I believe David Njoku is going to be back this week. So we might use him in the passing game. So it's just kind of interesting to watch how the Browns offense has evolved. And I would say, I don't know if you agree with this, but I would say the Browns offense has a little bit of an advantage in this game because we've scored 30-plus points in 3 straight games, whereas I've watched some bits and pieces of Colts games through like NFL Red Zone and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been able to watch a full Colts game, unfortunately. I wanted to because I like, watching a game of our next opponent. But from what I've seen, you guys don't seem to have like an explosive offense that can put up a lot of points. So does that have you nervous at all going into this game? Or are you like, our defense will keep it low scoring where our offense will be able to do just enough?
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned about it's not that they can't move the ball. It's just when they get into the red zone, they just struggle so much to score touchdowns. I mean, last week they kicked 4 field goals. And I know the Bears defense was good, but the Colts didn't take advantage of this Bears bad run defense. And just stuff like that. That kind of concerns me a little bit because as good as this Colts defense is playing, odds are there's going to be a game or two where they're not allowing a touchdown in a game or whatever it is, or allowing a team 11 points. There's going to be games where you're playing better opponents, better quarterbacks, better receivers, where it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. Your offense is going to have to match that a little bit. And so I am a little bit concerned. I mean, it's still early on, so I'm kind of like they're figuring it out. And there's been some injuries to the wide receivers. Obviously, Marlon Mack, the running back's been injured. He's out for the year. So I think they're still kind of getting used to each other. Like you said earlier, they haven't had a whole lot of time together outside of training camp. They haven't had any preseason games. So I kind of look at it as if we were going off the preseason games, this would be technically week 1 of the regular season if you think about it.
Right.
So maybe it just will take some teams a little bit, with new quarterbacks, a little bit more time to get to know each other a little bit. So that's kind of the hope, at least. I've been a little bit discouraged, some things that normally are Frank Reich traits. Being third down, red zone, running the football. They've struggled in these things, and it's been kind of surprising so far. I mean, this offensive line, as good as they have been, they've kind of struggled in the running game, and it's been very surprising for me so far. So hopefully they figure it out. I'm not entirely sure what was happening, but we'll see, I guess. But I am a little bit concerned about this, yeah, for sure, especially if the Browns just have a really good day offensively. They can run the ball really well, and then some of your receivers and tight ends can expose, especially if the injuries happen. I am a little bit concerned.
Never wish injuries upon anybody.
No.
No.
Well, we're a little bit banged up this week, so a little bit concerning, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm expecting this to be a low-scoring defensive battle because that's just what I've seen from these two teams. I know our offense has been putting up 30-plus points. We've established that. But we're placing the number 1 defense in the league, which is still crazy that it's not like Pittsburgh or, San Francisco. It's just you guys. And I'm like, where did this come from? Because it's not like you went out and hired some new defensive coordinator.
Right.
So I'm just like, where did this Colts defense come from? Was it just a case of adding the right player to the right system, or where do you think this stellar Colts defense came from?
I mean, I think it is a combination of getting better players, especially Buckner. I mean, comparing him to the three technique last year, it's night and day. Xavier Rhodes also was an upgrade. There's question marks about him. Was he going to be an upgrade from Pierre Desir? And it looks like he has been so far. He's played great outside of his week 1 performance. I thought he's played really, really strong. The Colts have been able to utilize his strengths. And then Julian Blackmon, the free safety, the rookie out of Utah, 3rd-round pick. He has just played lights out. He's been one of the best rookie defenders in the league so far. And it's crazy because, we didn't expect him to be back until probably practicing around this time. And he's been playing the last couple games. So I think a combination of those 3 things, along with just changing some things up a little bit on the defensive side, being a little bit more unpredictable, I think all those things have factored in to the Colts really being able to control some games. I really think so, and not allowing opponents to get back into games. I mean, we saw last week with Chicago, they were not able to get back in the game, and that's how they had won the first 3 games, was those crazy, dramatic fourth-quarter comebacks.
Right.
The Colts defense just shut them down, and that defense, it started with that defensive line. Nick Foles could not get in a rhythm. They couldn't run the ball, and the Colts defensive line was just so stifling. They couldn't do anything. So I definitely think it starts with the defensive line. It impacts every single level of your defense. And also those additions as well, the free agent additions and draft picks. I really think it's made a big impact so far for sure.
Right. So I would say it's kind of been the same thing for the Browns on the defensive side of the ball for us. Kind of started with drafting Myles Garrett, number 1 overall in the 2017 draft, and then building from there, adding Denzel Ward 4th overall in the same draft as Baker Mayfield and Quentin Nelson, which I think 2 out of those 3 have been home runs. I'm still on the fence about Baker Mayfield, and we can talk about that because he's been a little bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mm-hmm. But, we brought in Joe Woods. I forget where he was before. What I want to say maybe Arizona. I could be wrong about that, but he seems to have brought in a system. I want to say it's a 3-4, if I remember correctly, that seems to work for Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, Denzel Ward, that it allows them to play up on the receivers and create havoc on the on the opponent's offensive line, because I've watched Browns games for a while. Denzel Ward always seems to get matched up on the opponent's best receiver. Like when Antonio Brown was in Pittsburgh, Denzel Ward was matched up against Antonio Brown. When we play Cincinnati, Denzel Ward goes up against A.J. Green. So for you guys, I would expect that T.Y. Hilton is going to get the Denzel Ward treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think so. And T.Y. hasn't really been crazy this year at all. It's kind of been a weird year for T.Y. Hilton. Not really a ton of volume. He hasn't really had a 100-yard game this year at all, I don't think. So it's just been kind of odd for T.Y. Hilton. But I definitely think, they'll definitely line up and stop him, because you never know with T.Y. Hilton. He can have a game where he catches 2 passes for 30 yards, and he can have a game where he goes for 9 catches for 200 yards. It's just crazy sometimes with T.Y. Hilton. Sometimes you talk about Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes it can be like that a little bit with T.Y. Hilton as well. So, but yeah, I definitely think he's going to be a decoy for this game. And if Denzel Ward's shadowing him the whole game, the Colts are going to look to other guys to potentially, especially the tight ends. The Colts now finally have
Ali Cox.
Ali Cox is a guy that has definitely been very, very good. Nobody knew who he was to start the season. He's come out and he's played really well. And then Jack Doyle, obviously, he's a security blanket. And Trey Burton, who came back last week. So the Colts have their top 3 tight ends. And I know, kind of talking to some Browns fans, that the Browns linebackers are kind of struggling coverage a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
So I'm looking for the Colts to really utilize their tight ends. Frank Reich talked about how he wanted to use the tight ends a lot more last week against the Bears, because they also struggled against the tight ends. But it just never worked that way. So I'm looking for them to implement that a lot more, get all 3 of these guys involved now that they're healthy. And that's the way I think the Colts are going to be able to move the ball on this Browns defense because, Denzel Ward's a top corner. You got some other guys in that secondary that kind of scare me a little bit. So
Okay.
I'm definitely looking, for the Colts to expose those linebackers if they're going to pass the ball.
Right. So just a quick note, this game is at 4:30 on CBS. You have two teams on riding 3-game winning streaks. So you would think CBS would be smart enough to go, oh, this is the marquee game of the weekend. Let's have Jim Nantz and Tony Romo call the game. Nope. Instead, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are going to Dallas where they're going to call the 0-4 Giants against the 1-3 Cowboys.
Wow.
What? Why? I know Tony Romo is a former Cowboy, but come on. Really? I don't even know the names of the commentators calling our game. It's like
good old Spiro Diaz. We know Colts fans know him well. He about calls every single Colts game. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're kind of sick of him at this point.
Well, I won't be hearing the commentators because I think I'm going to be at FirstEnergy Stadium for this game.
Nice.
And we actually increased the number of fans from 6,000 to 12,000. So I don't know if it'll be enough to rattle the Colts and their play calling, but the noise factor could make somewhat of a difference.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's better to have some fans in there than none, I feel like. And so you got to start somewhere. The Colts actually did something recently. It's the same way. I think they're 12,000 or about 12,500, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, and funny enough, I'm actually going to the game the week after against Cincinnati at home. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So I was actually in Indianapolis last year, not for a Colts game. Actually, it was for a Pacers game. Because I have a lifetime goal to see a game at every NBA team's arena. So we decided to go to Indiana. It was actually against the OKC Thunder. Oh, wait, no. No, it was last year because Paul George was still with the Thunder, which is the reason I wanted to go to that particular game because it's like Paul George's second return to Indiana. So I'm like, well, I couldn't be there for the original one, so why not go to that one?
Yeah.
And, I got to go with my dad to Lucas Oil Stadium. I think they were doing some sort of motorcycle event or something that night.
Oh, yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
But it looks like a really nice stadium. I don't know if I want to go to a game at every NFL team stadium. There are some stadiums where I'm like, nah, I don't really want to go. Lucas Oil is like at the top of the list for me when it comes to stadiums that I want to go to. Because number one, like I said before we originally started recording, the Colts are my favorite team in the AFC South. But don't worry, Browns fans, I'm not rooting for them this Sunday because this is a Cleveland Browns channel. So don't start running away from me. Sorry, man, but I can't do that.
Fair enough.
But hey, if the Colts are playing the Tennessee Titans, I'll root for the Colts. Although, who knows if the Titans are ever going to play again this season because
that was so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, they need to forfeit games. Like, I'm just at that point where I'm like, we can't keep accommodating you if you didn't obey the rules,
Yep.
So
I'm
fine with it.
Yeah. I heard the league might consider, doing the playoffs based off of win percentage instead of win-loss record. Because
I heard they might make them forfeit some games, which is like, well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Hey, if they forfeit the game, that's the opponent's gain, right?
Right, exactly. And that's our gain as right behind them in the division right now. So
yeah. I'd like to see the Colts and the Browns in the same division. I really would. Because
that'd be interesting.
I looked it up on Cleveland.com actually. The season series is tied 15-15 between Indy and Cleveland. But you guys have won 3 straight, most recently in 2017. I think that game was in Indianapolis, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, this game's in Cleveland on Sunday. You guys actually hold the advantage for games here in Cleveland 8-5. And the game I can remember distinctly is the 2014 Week 15 game. We were leading for a majority of that game, and I don't know what happened, but somehow Andrew Luck led you guys on a massive comeback, and you ended up winning that game like 29-28 or something.
Yep.
Which pretty much dashed our playoff hopes because we lost that game, then we lost at the Panthers, and then we lost at the Ravens.
Yeah.
So, I want to get that bad taste out of my mouth.
No, that's fair. I was actually at that 2017 game. That was a rough year for both of our squads.
Yes.
That was the year the Colts held the 3rd overall pick, the Browns held the 1st. So
yeah, I think that was the year we went 0-16.
Yep, it was. I remember Deshaun Kaiser, I think it was, Notre Dame guy. He threw the interception, game-sealing interception in that game, and I
remember that.
Okay.
Yeah. I love the Colts, actually. I really do. Peyton Manning's my favorite quarterback of all time. Reggie Wayne's my favorite wide receiver of all time. I want to get a Reggie Wayne jersey, actually. But I'm guessing they are highly expensive because if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, something's wrong.
Yeah, he's a great one. That's
same with
sure.
Peyton. If Peyton Manning's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I have no words.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But getting back to previewing this game, we've kind of discussed this already, but it's going to be won in the trenches. Do you agree or disagree on that one?
I do. I do agree. I think it's definitely going to be won in the trenches, especially I look at it. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see, the Colts have a good offensive line. The Browns have a good defensive line. That's where I'm really going to be looking. And I feel like that's going to determine a big chunk of this game. I mean, I feel like we could say the Colts have a little bit of an advantage at the defensive line as opposed to the Browns offensive line. Because you think Justin Houston versus your rookie tackle. I'm forgetting
Jedrick Wills.
Yeah, Jedrick Wills. Justin Houston has been on a tear this year. I mean, really
sure.
He's been fantastic. DeForest Buckner, we already talked about. Danico Autry's another guy. He's the other defensive end. He's off of a couple of years ago. He almost had double-digit sacks at the interior, and so I think he's playing even better now, and he's been very effective as well. So everybody on this defensive line is really playing well.
Sure.
So I'm looking to see what they can do against this Cleveland team.
Right.
You guys are averaging over 200 yards per game rushing, which is absolutely out of this world.
We got over 300 last week, but
yeah, that's probably
because Dallas has no defense.
Yeah, for sure. But the Colts have always, the last couple of years, especially under Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, they've been really good against the run about every single year. Usually it's like maybe once or twice a year they allow a 100-yard rusher, if that. I know there's been a couple times where they haven't even allowed a 100-yard rusher. Right now they're allowing about 70-some yards per game, 77 I believe it is.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting without Nick Chubb in this game.
Right.
Can the Colts shut down Kareem Hunt? As good as he is, could the Colts potentially do that? I don't know.
Right.
They've been pretty good so far against Dalvin Cook, against some other, pretty good running backs. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, but on the other side, I like Jonathan Taylor for you guys. I forget how often he's your primary running back now, right? Because
Yep.
Right. So he probably gets the ball at least 50 times a game, I would say. Is that
well, they've split it up a little bit more recently. Jordan Wilkins also has carries and Nyheim Hines too. But there was one game where he had a lot of carries. That Vikings game, they just ran with him. I hope they do that again. They haven't done that in a while.
So you want to see the Colts really establish a run game?
Yeah, I think you have to. They've struggled to do it. And I think against a top-rated defense, I think you have to do some – I'm not looking for 150 yards in this game. I'm just looking for you to be efficient when you need to be efficient in the running game.
Sure.
And this offensive line to really get some of their mojo back. I mean, they've struggled with that. whether it be injuries or whatever it is. Their last game, they got manhandled by the Bears defensive line. So I'm really wanting them to have a nice bounce back game here, especially if Costanzo can go. That would be such a huge boost to this offensive line.
Yeah, Costanzo's going to be big for you because, Myles Garrett is going to be coming for Phillip Rivers, who, as we know, is not a mobile quarterback. Like, he may step up in the pocket to make a throw down the field, but he's not going to take off like a Ben Roethlisberger and try and extend a play or an Aaron Rodgers. So, for the most part, he's stationary. So, that we don't have to worry about like a Dak Prescott. Whereas for you guys, we faced a pretty good defensive line already in Washington, with Ryan Kerrigan, Montez Sweat. I know Chase Young got injured during the game, but he was there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Baker did a pretty good job of escaping pressures and, extending plays. I'm not trying to compare Baker Mayfield to Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes by any means. But I'm just saying that, we might have a little bit of an advantage there because we faced a good defensive line in Washington. Granted, you guys are better, but, I would say we have a little bit of a leg up.
Okay. Fair enough.
Do you feel like that's a fair assessment or not really?
We'll see. I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly. I mean, we've never seen them face off, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty even, though. I really do.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to be one in the trenches, so it's hard to say who's going to dominate because you just don't know. Yeah.
Right. I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah.
I've been trying to make the claim for this whole week, actually, that even though it's week 5, this is probably one of the biggest games for the Browns in the past 15 to 20 years, I would say. Because think about this. The league has, expanded the playoffs to include 7 playoff teams, meaning only the number 1 seed is going to get a bye, which that's going to be Kansas City, no doubt. But, Baltimore's most likely going to be there. We're not sure about who's going to be there from the AFC South. It's probably going to be Tennessee, but, I don't want to write you guys off either. But what about those other spots? Is it going to be Buffalo? Is it going to be New England? We don't know, all that. But that leaves an opening for teams like Pittsburgh, us, So, and let's say the Colts and the Browns are fighting for playoff positioning, late in the season, week 16, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's who won the head-to-head? So That's why I'm saying this is one of the biggest games because, no disrespect to Cincinnati, Washington, and Dallas, but they're not the Colts. You guys are a legit contender in the AFC. You have the number 1 defense. You guys know who you are on offense, which I would say we're almost mirror images of each other in that sense. Mm-hmm. And, you guys have a strong defensive line. That's mostly what we've talked about with DeForest Buckner, Justin Houston, and some of the other guys you mentioned. So, we can't overlook you and look ahead to the week 6 showdown that we have in Pittsburgh next week against Big Ben and the Steelers. Because if we do that, you guys are just going to come marching into our stadium and just whoop our ass.
Well, yeah, the Colts can't afford to do that either. I mean, they've had some last couple of years. They've had some games they've overlooked. And it seems like so far, besides that week 1 matchup, the Colts have done what they needed to do. And I haven't really seen that from them before. So I'm interested now that the Colts, have a little bit of a tougher opponent, I would say. Probably the toughest test also for the Colts so far throughout the season. I hope they come out swinging. I mean, they've always seemed like they've played well against teams that they should play well against. They've always just kind of struggled against some of the teams they should beat. So I'm really excited to see what happens here. And can the Colts continue to come out and play like they have the last couple of weeks? The competition's a little bit higher now. And the stakes are a little bit higher as well. So I'm really excited for this game. And I'm kind of nervous because I have no idea what kind of Colts team we're going to get. I just don't.
So, we've talked a lot about your defense, but, like I said, I haven't been able to watch a lot of Colts stuff because, they don't really show the Colts here in Cleveland. So what type of defense should we Browns fans expect to see? Do you guys play like a zone defense primarily, man defense, nickel, dime? What should we expect?
Yeah, they've done a lot of zone. That's kind of just been how they've done. They've kind of changed it up a little bit. Sometimes they'll play a little bit more man if they need to. And I personally think they play better when they do man. But a lot of what they do is zone, especially like with Xavier Rhodes. He thrives in that kind of system as opposed to man, where he was in Minnesota, where he struggled a lot more. And the Colts also will set, they don't blitz a ton. Like they're the least amount of blitzing team in the league right now on defense. But the thing is with this defensive line, the Colts don't have to send the blitz. They can just rush with 4 and they can get to the quarterback.
Right.
And that is so huge for this defense. If you can get home with 4 guys, I mean, this defense is going to be fantastic. We've seen it so far. They've done it really well. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what this defense is. It used to be more of a bend-don't-break type defense. But as they've added and accumulated more talent, I really feel like now they're at a place where they can rush 4 and they can play the defense the way it's designed to play. Now that they have, an elite defensive tackle, and now that they have a little bit more help at the corner position and the safety position.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the linebackers are studs as well. So every level of this defense is really solid right now. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, our defense isn't fully healthy because I don't think Greedy Williams is going to play this game. Last I checked, I'd have to check the injury report again, because things can change between now and Sunday, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen we don't really blitz a ton either. We're pretty good at getting after the quarterback, by just sending 3 or 4 because we have guys like Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, and Larry Ogunjobi. But we seem to be playing more of a man defense, which is what I would expect for us to do on Sunday because other than T.Y. Hilton, we've talked about your tight ends and, they could be the biggest threat. But, I haven't really seen any other receiver besides T.Y. Hilton that, should scare the bejesus out of me on the Colts offense.
Right. No, I agree with you. I mean, the loss of Paris Campbell was big. It was, you've seen, the Colts desperately miss Paris Campbell. Hopefully he can come back this season. We'll see what happens there. And then Michael Pittman as well, a sure-handed receiver, 2nd-round pick this year. He's out for a little bit of time too. So this wide receiver core has been hurt a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see can the Colts maybe they use Nyheim Hines a little bit more in the slot. I hope they do because he's a really good slot player. But yeah, the good thing is with this Colts offense, I'm kind of surprised they haven't used it more. They have a lot of weapons. I know the wide receivers are hurt, but they have weapons out of the backfield. They have the tight ends. I feel like that's the way they're going to have to attack this Cleveland defense because you're right. The wide receivers right now, Zach Pascal's a solid receiver, and there's some other guys
I was thinking of, actually.
What's that?
Pascal was actually the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, he's a solid
receiver I can think of besides T.Y. for you guys.
He doesn't, scare you, though. I mean, he's solid, but he's oh, my goodness, we have to game plan for this guy. But, yeah, then they have some other receivers who they're decent, they're good, and they have some potential, but right now they're injured. So hopefully they can all get back, and then this Colts offense could get a little bit better. But right now they have to just kind of do what they can to kind of just make up for that loss of talent a little bit.
Yeah. I'm still surprised you guys benched Jacoby Brissett because I liked it. I feel like his ability to scramble and gain positive yards if the pocket was collapsing gave you guys an extra dimension that you lost with the addition of Phillip Rivers. So I'm a little bit surprised that you guys signed Phillip Rivers, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not, because Jacoby Brissett, he, even in the games the Colts were 5-2 last year, he was a game manager at best. And I know Phillip Rivers hasn't been, necessarily any different up to this point.
No.
But I think the thing with Phillip Rivers is he knows Frank Reich's offense. He's very, very accurate. And he just gives you a chance vertically that Jacoby Brissett it's not like he couldn't. He just wouldn't. He wouldn't take those deep shots. He's more of a game manager. So, you trade in more interceptions for Phillip Rivers as opposed to a better vertical attack, ideally, for Jacoby Brissett. He takes care of the ball. But when it came down to the times when the Colts needed to throw the ball, Jacoby Brissett couldn't do it. I mean,
right.
He couldn't throw it down the field. And, even though I was kind of like, oh, my goodness, that's a lot of money to pay to a 38-year-old quarterback, I understood it because you're in a weird position with quarterback with Andrew Luck retiring. And so, I didn't love the move, but I think right now the good thing is, like, this is the floor right now for this. I feel like for this passing attack, they can only go up from here. I really feel like
right.
it.
And I'm not trying – oh, sorry. Continue.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, I feel like this 3-1 Colts team as opposed to the 5-2 team last year, I'm a lot more confident that they're going to be better down the stretch because of the talent they've acquired.
Sure. And I'm not trying to say Phillip Rivers is a bad quarterback and that you guys shouldn't have signed him, but I just felt like Jacoby Brissett gave you that added dimension of being able to, run the ball for 3 or 4 yards and get you positive yards, even when, like I said, like if the pocket was collapsing or if receivers weren't open. But I do understand that, like, Rivers can give you the deep ball that you weren't necessarily getting with Jacoby Brissett.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we've been searching for our quarterback for, God, I don't know how many years. I think we've had like 20 different starting quarterbacks, like Colt McCoy, Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace, Thad Lewis, Johnny Manziel, Cody Kessler, Brandon Whedon. It's just ridiculous. Like, I don't know what it was, but it's like Cleveland is the quarterback graveyard or something.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hoping that's not the case with Baker Mayfield, which he looks like could turn into something. I don't know if we're going to look back and say, oh, he definitely should have been the number 1 pick. Like, I don't know if he's going to live up to that.
Right.
But, maybe he lives up. Maybe he's able to be the quarterback where it's like, okay, you don't have to throw it 50 times. Just throw it like 30 to 35. Let your run game control it. Because, like, Baker comes in 2018, plays well for a majority of that season, had a couple hiccups like the game at Houston. And then 2019, we bring in OBJ. We bring in Freddie Kitchens, which I thought that was a terrible move to make Freddie Kitchens the head coach after only like 8 months or whatever it was. And, Baker Mayfield's like holding on to the ball for like 3 or 4 seconds, like looking for somebody to throw it to. And he would try and scramble, but I'm just looking at him like, dude, what happened?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Baker. Like, is he the real deal? Was last year just a mirage? Like, who is Baker Mayfield? Like, I feel like we still don't know the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would say about Baker Mayfield right now. If anybody asked me, I'd be like, I don't really know what I think of him. Yeah.
Is that because you don't really follow the Browns, or?
I mean, just like from what I've seen, like it seems like he's hot and then he's cold, and then you just never know. And I know, like last year with Freddie Kitchens, like I don't give him a pass, but I understand a little bit. Whereas this year, you go out in week 1 and you just drop an egg. Like, I'm just like, okay, what is Baker Mayfield? Is he 2018, like, when he was starting, or is he 2019? I don't know what he is.
Right.
And I don't watch them a ton, so I don't know every ins and outs of Baker Mayfield. But yeah, I don't know what to make of him yet. Quite honestly, I know it's only entering now. I guess this would be year 3 for him.
Yeah, year 3. So
So,
hopefully last year was just the sophomore slump.
Yeah.
So.
That's right. Yeah.
But you guys just drafted a quarterback too. I think it was Jacob Eason, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which that was a little bit surprising. I thought you guys were going to go after not Eason. Who was the other guy?
Was it Jordan Love?
No, I did hear that you guys wanted to draft Jordan Love, but Green Bay beat you to it, which I don't know why the Packers traded up to take Jordan Love, but it wasn't Jacob Eason. It was because Jacob Eason went to Washington, right?
You did, yep.
No, I thought you guys were going to draft Jake Fromm, actually, from Georgia.
Ugh. No, thank you.
No? You're good. That's a hard pass?
Hard pass. I didn't like anything about him. I thought he had a weak arm. I thought he kind of reminded me of A.J. McCarron a little bit from years ago, where it's like he just was with such a great team. And, like, as an individual player, I wasn't blown away by him at all. And then obviously he – with the whole thing with the statements that he said, it's just like, I'm glad we steered clear of him. I really am. So,
are you happy with the selection of Jacob Eason, or are you like?
I am. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a ton of him, obviously, but from all indications, he's impressed the coaching staff so far. People were even saying he was a, second-round talent potentially, and the Colts got him in the 4th round. So I think that's great value for where potentially. I know it's very early, so you can't say you're a franchise quarterback because you don't know. But potentially a shot at your franchise quarterback in the 4th round. I mean, that's awesome. Like I'm totally down for that. Give you a chance. He's got a big arm. And if the Colts can develop him, Frank Reich, a former quarterback, if he can develop the talent, I'm going to be excited to see what we got in Jacob Eason maybe next year, maybe the year after. I don't know.
So do you think that we know Philip Rivers is going to be – he's on the roster for what? Just this season, correct?
Just this season, yep.
Okay.
He's under contract at least for just this season.
Right. So do you think he'll re-sign with the Colts next year, or is it too early to say?
I'm going to say it's too early for me to say definitively. I mean, I feel like he might want to, but it's like, do the Colts want to, or do they want to move ahead with their quarterback search? It'll really depend on how the rest of the season plays out, quite honestly. That's kind of how I think. But, I mean, if he continues his performance probably from these weeks, I'd probably lean towards no. And even though you have Jacob Eason, I mean, he's the only quarterback under contract after this year. So I'd probably still try to draft another quarterback early.
Oh, I didn't know Brissett was a free agent after this season too.
Yep. He got extended. I think he got extended before the 2019 season for a couple years. And so, he'll be a free agent, and Philip Rivers will be a free agent as well. Yeah,
I knew Philip Rivers was going to be a free agent. I did not know that about Jacoby Brissett. Huh. But, first of all, I'm really enjoying breaking this game down and talking various stuff about the Colts and Browns. It's, I'm trying to accomplish the goal of doing a video collaboration for every single opponent of the Browns schedule. So, I'm up to week 5, which is crazy. I didn't think I would actually find a YouTuber for some of these teams. Like, I didn't think I could find a Bengals YouTuber, but I found that. So, still got to try and find a Raiders YouTuber and a Texans YouTuber. So, those two might be,
You could probably do it.
Do you guys generally do video collaborations with other YouTubers, or do you guys just kind of keep to yourselves?
We try to. Yeah, we try to do it sometimes to kind of just get an inside scoop on some team on the Browns and other teams. We definitely try to do that. Yeah, with different people.
Right, because I know like Derek was messaging me like that he's. It sounds like he's the main guy when it comes to the channel.
So, funny enough, I started it initially in 2019, and then Derek came on that summer of 2019. So, I guess I technically own it, if that makes sense. But,
yeah,
it's like a 50-50 thing with both of us.
Got it. But what was I just going to say? I completely forget. Oh, yeah. So, who do you think is going to be matched up with Odell? Do you think it's going to be, is it going to be Xavier Wood? Or I almost called him Xavier Woods. No, Xavier Rhodes. There we go. Or do you think like they'll play more of like some type of zone, or what do you think the Colts are going to do with Odell and Jarvis?
Gosh, that's a hard task to stop both of those guys. But fortunately, the Colts have their 2 top corners healthy, so that's good. Yeah, I think maybe it would make more sense to do a little bit more man on both those guys. If I'm guessing, probably Xavier Rhodes would line up on him because he's a little bit more experienced than Rock Ya-Sin. And then Rock Ya-Sin would probably guard Jarvis Landry or something, or maybe Kenny Moore does their slot corner, probably the best slot corner in the league.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting for sure to see what the Colts do against these receivers. I mean, they scare me. They really do. They've got the home run ability about every single play. So, yeah, I think it'll be a combination of zone, but also, if you need to take Odell out of the game, I think Xavier Rhodes is probably your best bet. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting with this secondary that's right now first in the league. Who knows if that's going to stay the same after this game? But.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and make my score prediction. As we've established this, and if you're a subscriber or a viewer of my channel, I'm a Browns fan. But I'm objective, where I'm not just automatically going to pick the Browns to win. Like, if I don't think the Browns are going to win, I'm not going to pick them. And, we're at home. We're coming off a big win against Dallas. But for some reason, I just feel like we're going to slip up this game. I don't know if it's going to be because we look ahead to Pittsburgh or something. Maybe it's because we're facing the number 1 defense. But I'm going to say the Colts win a low-scoring game, 24-21.
Okay, I'm right there in 24-20 Colts. I do think, like we mentioned earlier, we both haven't played the best teams in the first 4 weeks. But the good news is, for the Colts, I guess, is that the games that they have played against not great teams, they've thoroughly dominated. So I just think I'm a little bit more convinced by them, just a little bit more than the Browns. And, if the Colts can contain some of those guys, they can contain this running game. I mean, Nick Chubb's a big loss. So right. I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But, yeah, I think the Colts are going to come in and they're going to win this game. And it's going to be tough, though. Honestly, I could go either way. I think it's going to be close, and I think it's really going to be a defensive battle again. It's going to be, field position once again, similar to how we played against Chicago. But definitely a lot more talent on offensive as opposed to the Chicago offense. So
right. We have a lot more pieces that you have to worry about than Chicago does.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But like Nick Foles has proven that he can't start for a team the whole season.
Right.
So, but it's going to be interesting. The matchup I think I'm most looking forward to is your defensive line, not against our offensive line, but actually against Baker Mayfield. Like, can your defensive line get pressure on Baker Mayfield? And if you do, what is Baker going to do? Is he going to just try and step up in the pocket? Is he going to try and escape and still continue to look downfield? Is he going to take off and run for 5 or 6 yards? Like, that's the matchup I'm watching for.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. It's going to be interesting. How can Baker escape from some of these guys? Sam Darnold did it a couple weeks ago. Colts nearly had him for multiple sacks, and he somehow escaped and did some magic. So,
but did the Jets end up doing anything? No.
No, but I mean, he did scramble, and that was their only score. But it was an incredible play by him.
I think you guys probably had your bench players in by the end of the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, they scored in one of their first drives and didn't score after that. So,
yeah. So, in the past, I've done we've raised the stakes on this channel, doing bets. So I don't know if you want to do something like that. If you don't want to, we don't have to. It's up to you.
I'm not much of a bet guy, quite honestly.
Okay, no problem. Just thought I would offer. But I wanted to point this out. When I've done these video collaborations, the Browns have only lost 3 times.
Okay. Nice.
One of those was at home. The other two were on the road at Baltimore.
Nice.
The one loss we had was at home against Seattle last year. But other than that, the Browns have won. Gosh, how many times have I done these? Every other time except those 3, the Browns have won. So maybe the odds are stacked a little bit in my favor for that.
We'll see.
And I don't know about you, but I'm a superstitious fan. So I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to put on my game day outfit for right now because I don't want to ruin the superstition. But the last couple times I've worn that outfit, the Browns have won, and it's been part of their 30-plus point streak against Cincinnati and against Dallas. So I'm definitely pulling that outfit out for Sunday. Are you going to do any type of superstitions for the game on Sunday, or you just going to kind of hope for it on a wing and prayer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like majorly superstitious. I used to be a lot more, but now I just kind of so there's some Sundays where I'm not really able to watch the game because I'm doing something with people or whatever it is. But every time I've been able to, I guess I should say that I've had somebody on my show and they've predicted their team to lose, like you just did. Their team has lost. So
crap.
I don't know.
Oh crap. But
so the Jaguars guy actually predicted his team to win, and they won. And then the Vikings person said, "Oh, we're going to lose." They lost. Jets person said, "We're going to lose." They lost. And then last week, the Bears person said, "We're going to lose." They lost. So I don't know.
Oh, so we kind of have 2 clashing superstitions this week. I like it. But, we kind of talked about this, but with Baker Mayfield being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I want to see the good Baker Mayfield, the one that's been playing the last 3 games where don't throw it more than 35 times. Only throw it, that amount of times. And you don't need the deep ball necessarily. Like, if you see Jarvis Landry open on a 5-yard route, throw it to him. Maybe he can turn it into a 25-yard gain, something like that. So that's what I'm really looking for in this game is is Baker going to continue to, play efficiently? Are you looking for the kind of the same thing with Phillip or?
Yeah, he needs to play more efficiently. Last week was definitely his worst performance of the season. Wasn't great, and he didn't turn it over. So I'm looking for that first and foremost. No turnovers from him, which he's been good about the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I just need him to be more efficient. Completion percentage was not up to par last week. And then just pushing the ball down the field. They've struggled with the average. They averaged like 6 yards per attempt last week, which is awful. So I would definitely say, yeah, doing that. Obviously, the red zone 3rd down is huge for them. They need to be more efficient there.
Yes.
And just get your tight ends involved. That's what they got to do. They have to do that if they want a chance.
Both teams, I think, need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking for that. Just a more efficient day from Phillip Rivers. Kind of what we saw a couple weeks ago against Jets, against the Vikings. He wasn't like throwing it 45 times a game like he did in week 1, but he was efficient and he did exactly what he needed to do. That's what I'm hoping he gets back to this week.
Yeah, so this is the first of 4 games for us against the AFC South because we're going to be at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, and then home against Houston. Whereas for you, this is the first of 4 against the AFC North. You guys play at home against Cincinnati. You're at Baltimore, right? Or are you home again?
They're coming here. They're coming to Indy.
Oh, and so then you'll be at Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha. And you're playing the NFC North, correct?
Yes. We're playing the Packers. We already played the Vikings. Obviously, we just played the Bears. Yep.
Okay, so
we got to play the Lions still.
Got it. If you guys don't beat the Lions, I'm gonna laugh at you. I'm sorry.
They better beat the Lions at this point.
You guys are gonna have a tough test against Green Bay. I gotta admit to you on that one.
Yeah, they're
I'm
good.
looking forward to that game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Fortunately, I think that's at home as well. So the Colts.
Yeah, I believe that is.
Yeah.
I already made this bold prediction, actually. When the Browns play at Tennessee in Week 13, I locked in my prediction. That game will be flexed into Sunday Night Football. So I can't take that prediction back now. I'm hoping I'm right about that. We'll see if the Titans are even playing by that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. You got anything else?
No, I think that covers about everything that we were talking about with this game.
All right, then. I got nothing else. I had a good time, previewing this game. Hopefully you did as well.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, glad we could work this out. I will send you the link once we are done recording, if that's what you would like me to do.
Yeah, just send it to me when you post it on YouTube, and I'll just say, hey, everybody check it out on my channel and send people over your way.
All right, sounds good. Until next time, this is Unger to the Max, signing off with a salute to you. Give that like button wow, I screwed that one up. Give that like button a punch like a UFC fighter. Until next time, I'm Unger to the Max, and we will see you later.